Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt underestimated, not just by others, but by yourself, staying calm in chaos? What does that really mean? It means holding steady when the world around you is spinning out of control. It means refusing to be pulled into panic, drama, or fear, even when everything in you is screaming to react. It's easy to appear strong when life is going well, but true power is revealed when things fall apart, and you don't. When the storm hits and everyone is scrambling, you're the one who breathes. You're the one who observes before acting. You're the one who doesn't lose their head. That's not luck. That's not a personality trait. That is power. Have you ever been in a room where tension thickens the air, voices rise, and energy turns sharp? Some people feed on that chaos, others freeze in it, but then there's you, the one who watches. The one who listens, the one who doesn't get swept away. You may not even realize it, but that moment, when you choose calm over chaos, that is a defining moment of strength. People may not notice it, they may not applaud you for it. But make no mistake, it shifts the room, because when one person chooses peace over panic, they create space for clarity, and clarity in chaos. That changes everything. Calm is not about silence or inaction. It's not about being passive. It's about making decisions from a place of focus instead of fear. It's about knowing that your emotions don't have to lead you. It's the discipline of pausing before you respond, choosing your words instead of unleashing them. It's the deep inhale when you want to yell. It's the steady tone when your heart is pounding. That is not weakness. That is controlled power. And controlled power, that's rare. Sometimes staying calm means being the anchor for others who are losing themselves. You've been there, when someone breaks down in front of you, when situations escalate, when pressure peaks, and you're the one who holds steady. That kind of presence, it doesn't come from training. It doesn't come from reading a book or watching a motivational video. It comes from experience. It comes from pain. It comes from the moments where you had to be the calm one, because there was no other option, and maybe you didn't feel strong in that moment. Maybe you were trembling inside. But you still held it down. That's real power, and let's be honest, it's not always easy. It takes work, because everything in your nervous system wants to fight, flight, or freeze. Your mind runs, your chest tightens, your thoughts race. But instead of giving in to that chaos, you lean into stillness. You override your impulses. You choose your response, and that's mental toughness most people don't even understand. While others get louder to feel in control, you get quieter. While others escalate, you de-escalate. While others panic, you prepare. Do you know how powerful that is? What's even more powerful is that calm is contagious. Your energy influences the space you're in. When you hold your center, others start to find theirs. When you stay grounded, others follow. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't react to the temperature. You set it. People may not say it out loud, but they feel safer around you. They trust you in moments of crisis, not because you always have the answers, but because you can think when others can't. That's leadership. That's influence. That's a quiet kind of dominance that speaks louder than any shout ever could. And here's what most people don't realize. Staying calm doesn't mean you're unaffected. It doesn't mean you don't feel the chaos. It just means you've mastered the art of not letting it rule you. It means you've trained yourself, through hardship, through experience, through discipline, to hold power in stillness. And you may not see that as extraordinary, but it is, because we live in a world that thrives on noise, on reaction, on outrage. To be calm is to be countercultural. It's to reclaim your mind in a world trying to hijack it. So the next time everything around you feels like it's going off the rails, pay attention to how you respond. Do you tighten up? Do you react impulsively? Or do you take that one deep breath that changes everything? Because that breath, that's your power switch. That's the space between chaos and control. And the fact that you even have that choice, that you've practiced it, lived it, owned it, that means something. That means you're already more powerful than you think. You set boundaries without guilt, written in a compelling and emotionally realistic tone, designed to sound spoken and professional. Without subheadings or a formal conclusion. There's a moment in everyone's life where they realize that saying yes all the time is not a virtue, it's a trap. That moment when you finally understand that your worth is not defined by how available, how agreeable, or how sacrificing you are. You stop stretching yourself thin for people who barely notice, stop explaining your no, as if it needs justification, and start protecting the one thing that truly matters, your peace. That's the moment you start setting boundaries, and you do it without guilt. That's power. Setting boundaries without guilt doesn't come easy. For most of us, it comes after years of giving too much, years of putting everyone else's needs first, years of overcommitting, over-explaining, over-apologizing. At some point, you look in the mirror and ask yourself, why do I feel so drained? Why am I always the one adjusting? And then it clicks. You were never meant to be everything for everyone. You were meant to be fully yourself, for you. And when that shift happens, people notice. At first, they might not like it. They might say you've changed, that you're being cold, distant, even selfish. Why? Because your boundaries make them uncomfortable. Your boundaries force them to adjust, to respect limits they never had to consider before. And you, who used to bend over backwards, now stand firm. It rattles them. But that's not your problem anymore. That's growth. You see, guilt is the weapon the world uses to keep you small, to make you feel bad for taking up space, for protecting your time, for saying, I can't take that on right now. But here's the truth. Guilt is not a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the residue of a pattern you're breaking. It's the echo of a former version of you, one who didn't know it was okay to prioritize yourself. But you know now, and once you know, you can't go back. And it's not about being rude, it's not about being unkind, it's about being honest. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows their limits and owns them with grace. No drama, no defensiveness, just clarity. You don't need to yell. You don't need to justify. You simply say, this doesn't work for me. And that's enough. When you set boundaries without guilt, you start attracting people who actually respect you. Not because you demand it, but because your energy commands it. You walk into spaces no longer seeking permission. You answer messages when you have the capacity. You take time for yourself. And don't apologize for it. You stop feeling responsible for managing everyone else's emotions and start becoming responsible for your own. And you know what's wild? The more you protect your space, the more you realize how much you were tolerating, how many things you said yes to out of obligation, not joy, how many conversations you endured that drained you, how many commitments you made that didn't align with who you are. But now you see it. Now you choose differently. You choose rest over resentment, silence over explanation, presence over performance. You don't chase anymore. You don't prove, you don't beg to be understood, because you finally understand yourself, and that understanding, that's sacred. That's not something you compromise anymore. There will be people who still try to test those boundaries, who push, who guilt, who manipulate, and once upon a time, that might have worked, but now you see it for what it is, a distraction, a test, a mirror, and instead of shrinking, you stand taller, you speak clearly, you walk away when necessary, not out of anger, but out of alignment, because setting boundaries is not about building walls, it's about drawing lines in the sand that say, I matter too, my time matters, my energy matters, my peace matters. And when you operate from that place, you don't just survive, you thrive. You make space for what nourishes you. You reclaim your days, you return to yourself. And maybe you didn't always have that voice. Maybe you were taught that nice people say yes, that strong people never need space, that love is sacrifice and selflessness. But now you know better. Now you love differently. Now you live wisely. No guilt, no shame, just boundaries and the quiet, powerful freedom that comes with them. You speak up even when it's hard, written in a natural, powerful, spoken word style, without subheadings or a formal conclusion. There's a specific kind of courage that doesn't get talked about enough. It's not the kind that makes headlines or gets standing ovations. It's quieter, more personal, and sometimes incredibly lonely. It's the courage it takes to speak up, especially when your voice is shaking, when your stomach is tight, when every part of you wants to stay silent and keep the peace. But you don't. You speak even when it's hard, even when you're scared, even when no one else is saying what needs to be said. That's not just brave, that's powerful, because let's be honest, silence can feel safer. It's easy to keep your head down, to go along, to avoid confrontation. We convince ourselves that speaking up will cost too much. What if they don't like what I say? What if they judge me? What if they leave? But the real question, the one that matters, is what does it cost you to stay silent? What does it do to your spirit to hold everything in, to swallow your truth day after day just to make others comfortable. That's not peace, that's pressure, and pressure always builds. Speaking up is not about being loud, it's about being true. It's looking someone in the eye and saying, "This hurt me," or "I disagree," or "This isn't okay." It's choosing truth over comfort. It's telling your story even when you know people might not believe you, might dismiss you, might turn away, but you do it anyway. You do it because staying silent would be a betrayal to yourself, and yes, sometimes your voice shakes. Sometimes the words don't come out perfectly. Sometimes you overthink every sentence afterward, wondering if you said too much or not enough. But here's the truth, you said it, and that matters. The strength is not in how polished it sounds, it's in the fact that you dared to say it in the first place. There are people in this world who are waiting for someone else to go first, someone to name the thing no one else will, someone to raise their hand when the room goes quiet, someone to say, "This is wrong, this is unfair, this is who I really am." And when you do it, you don't just speak for yourself, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, a spark, a light in the dark. But let's not pretend it's easy. Speaking up can come with consequences. People might misunderstand you, they might push back. They might try to make you feel small for using your voice. And once upon a time that might have worked. You might have backed down, but now you understand that discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something real. You've stopped watering yourself down for the sake of approval. You've stopped editing your truth to make it easier for others to digest. You've learned that your voice has weight, that it can shift a conversation, change a dynamic, even spark a revolution, quiet or loud. And you don't use that voice recklessly. You use it when it counts. You use it when something inside you says, "If I don't say this now, I won't be able to live with myself later." You speak up in rooms where you're the only one. You speak up in situations that demand moral clarity. You speak up not to win, but to stand firm, not to hurt, but to heal, not to dominate, but to defend what you know is right, even when you're scared. Especially then, because you know fear is part of the process. It doesn't disqualify you, it qualifies you. It means what you're saying matters, and you know what else. You remember the times you didn't speak. The times you walked away feeling smaller, regretful, disconnected from your own values. Those moments taught you something. They weren't failures. They were rehearsals. They showed you what it feels like to abandon your voice. And now you've promised yourself never again. Now you speak clearly, calmly, fiercely when needed, not always perfectly, but always honestly, because you've learned that your silence doesn't protect you. It only delays the truth, and truth, when spoken from a place of courage and integrity, will always set something in motion. You speak up even when it's hard, and that changes everything. You keep showing up after failing, written in a natural, emotionally resonant tone, crafted for delivery or reflection, without subheadings or conclusion. Failure has a way of testing you like nothing else can. It's not just the fall, it's the aftermath, the echo in your mind telling you, "You should have known better." The silence from people who were cheering for you before, the weight of your own disappointment pressing against your chest, that's the part no one prepares you for. But here you are, after everything, still showing up, and that's power people can't always see. But it's the kind that matters most, because failure isn't just a moment, it's a mirror. It reflects everything you've been afraid to confront, your doubts, your insecurities, your fear of not being enough. It brings all of that to the surface and dares you to look. Most people turn away, they run, they hide behind excuses or blame or distraction. But not you. You looked, you felt it, you owned it, and then you got back up, even if it was messy, even if you were limping, even if the voices in your head said, "Why bother?" You still got up. That is strength. People love to celebrate success. They cheer when you win. They repost your highlight reel. But the real work, the real growth, it happens when no one's watching, when you're sitting in the aftermath of a failure and you make a quiet decision, "I'm not done." That's the moment that defines who you are, not the applause, not the trophy, not the result, but that raw, painful, unglamorous moment where you whisper, "I will try again." And maybe you didn't even realize how powerful that was, because we're taught that failure is the opposite of success. But it's not, it's part of the path. Every person who ever did something remarkable failed first. Some of them failed more times than they succeeded, but they kept showing up, and now, so do you. You've learned that failure doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're becoming, that every time you fall and rise, you build something stronger inside you. Grit, resilience, patience, perspective. These aren't traits you're born with. They're forged in the fire of disappointment. They're built when your ego has been cracked open and your pride has been stripped away, when you've been humbled by life and still choose to participate in it fully. Some days you show up with fire, determined, focused, ready to fight. Other days you show up with tired eyes and a heavy heart. But you show up anyway, even when it's not pretty, even when no one is cheering. That quiet consistency, that refusal to stay down, that's what separates you from the person you used to be. You stopped expecting the path to be smooth. You stopped waiting for permission or perfect timing. You realized that progress isn't always visible. Sometimes it's just you doing the hard thing again and again, wondering if it's making a difference, and one day it will. One day, the things that used to break you won't even shake you. One day, you'll look back and realize that the strength you have now was born in the exact moment you thought you had nothing left. And yes, you'll fail again. That's part of growth, but now you know failure isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter, one you'll read back with pride, not shame, because it's the evidence that you were brave enough to try, and brave enough to keep trying. You keep showing up after the fall, after the no, after the loss, after the heartbreak, after the door slammed in your face. You still walk forward, head high, even if your confidence is a little bruised. You may not have all the answers, but you have the will, and that will, that's unstoppable. So don't underestimate that quiet strength. The world might not see it. People might not understand it, but you feel it. Every time you rise, every time you lace your shoes, open that door, start that email, take that risk again. Every time you try one more time when giving up would be easier. That is what makes you powerful, and no matter how many times you fail, that strength can't be taken from you, because it's not built on outcome, it's built on heart, and yours just keeps showing up. You protect your energy, written in a powerful, emotionally engaging voice ideal for a spoken format or internal reflection, without subheadings or conclusion. There comes a point when you realize that your energy is not limitless, that your mind, your heart, your spirit, they're not bottomless wells for everyone to draw from. That realization doesn't make you cold. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you awake. Awake to the fact that not everyone deserves access to your peace, your time, your attention. You begin to understand that protecting your energy isn't about building walls. It's about honoring your worth. Because energy is everything. It's how you walk into a room. It's how you listen, how you show up for your work, your family, your dreams. When your energy is drained, it shows. You feel it in your body. You hear it in your voice. You notice it in the way your motivation fades and your patience thins. And yet, for so long, you were expected to keep giving, smiling, nodding, helping, showing up, even when you were running on empty. But now you've learned. You've seen what happens when you don't guard your space. You've felt the exhaustion that comes from people pleasing. You've sat in the quiet resentment that builds when you say yes to things that don't align with your soul. You've watched your own spark dim under the weight of everyone else's expectations, and you made a choice to protect your energy, to stop pouring into cups that never fill yours back. It's not easy. Especially if you were raised to believe that good people give without limits, that love means sacrifice, that saying no is rude. But here's the truth. Constantly giving without boundaries isn't kindness. It's a slow erosion of your identity, and now you've stopped apologizing for choosing yourself. You've stopped feeling guilty for turning off your phone, walking away from chaos, or protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You've learned how to read the room. You've learned how to recognize the people who take more than they give, the conversations that drain instead of inspire, the environments that leave you depleted instead of empowered. And instead of sticking around to prove something, you've learned how to leave without drama, without explanation, with grace. You no longer entertain emotional vampires, the people who thrive on negativity, who make everything about them, who only come around when they need something. You've cut the cords, and it wasn't easy. Sometimes those people were close, sometimes they were family, sometimes they were versions of your past self, but you did it anyway, because you finally understood. You are not a battery pack for other people's dysfunction. And you've also stopped wasting energy on things you can't control. The opinions of people who don't know you, the things they might say behind your back, the need to explain yourself over and over again to someone who's already decided not to understand you. You've reclaimed all of that energy and redirected it inward, into your healing, your purpose, your growth, and it shows. It shows in the way you protect your morning, the way you say no without guilt. The way you move with intention. You know now that peace is not found, it's created. You curate it, you defend it, you prioritize it, and not everyone will understand. Some people will say you've changed, that you've become distant, and that's okay, because the truth is you have changed, you've evolved, you've outgrown spaces that no longer fit the person you're becoming, and that's not something to apologize for, that's something to celebrate. Protecting your energy doesn't mean living in a bubble. It doesn't mean cutting off the world. It means being discerning. It means asking yourself, does this conversation uplift me or weigh me down? Does this person leave me inspired or exhausted? Is this task aligned with my values or just another distraction? And based on those answers, you act accordingly. No more overthinking, no more bending to fit places you've outgrown, just alignment, clarity. Power, you've made yourself your own safe space. You've become your own sanctuary, and that is no small thing, because in a world that pulls you in 100 directions, where urgency is constant and drama is loud, the ability to pause, to ground, to protect what matters most, that's rare. And you've earned that through trial, through burnout, through rising again and again with a deeper understanding of what fuels you and what drains you. And now, every boundary you hold, every time you say no, every time you step away from something that doesn't serve your highest self, it's not just self-preservation, it's self-respect. You turn fear into fuel, written in a powerful, emotionally resonant style for impactful delivery. Without subheadings or a formal conclusion, fear. It's that feeling in your chest right before you step into the unknown. It's the racing heartbeat, the shallow breath, the voice in your head whispering, what if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I'm not enough? Fear is universal. It comes for all of us. It doesn't care how strong you look, how confident you sound, or how many times you've succeeded before. It shows up, uninvited, trying to convince you to stay small, to sit down, to play safe. But you turned fear into fuel. You didn't wait for fear to disappear. You didn't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. You felt the fear and moved anyway, and that is where the power lies. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's what rises up when you refuse to be controlled by it. It's what grows in you every time you step forward, heart pounding, hands shaking, voice trembling, but step forward anyway, and maybe it didn't look glamorous. Maybe your first step was clumsy. Maybe you were terrified the entire time, but that step, that bold, brave, imperfect step, was everything, because fear feeds on avoidance. It grows stronger when you retreat, but when you face it, when you challenge it, when you look fear in the eye and say, watch me, something inside you shifts forever. You begin to realize that fear isn't the enemy, it's information. It's a signal, not always that you're in danger, but often that you're standing at the edge of growth. Fear shows up when you're about to break old patterns, rewrite old stories, and rise into something bigger than you've ever been. It's not there to stop you. It's there to ask you, are you ready? And now, you've learned to answer with action. You've learned how to use fear as fuel, to let it sharpen your focus, to let it push you to prepare, to grow, to stretch beyond your limits. Fear has taught you how to trust your instincts, how to listen deeper, how to show up even when the outcome isn't guaranteed, because if you waited for certainty, you'd never begin. If you waited until you weren't afraid, you'd still be stuck in the same place, wondering what could have been. You've stopped seeing fear as a stop sign and started seeing it as a green light, a signal that you're on something that matters. And yes, sometimes you still feel that old resistance, that inner critic, that self-doubt, but now you know what to do with it. You don't let it paralyze you, you use it, you convert it. You turn fear into momentum. Fear tried to talk you out of your dreams, out of your truth, out of your voice, but here you are still rising, still trying, still daring to believe there's more for you. Fear didn't stop you, it fueled you, it gave you clarity, it helped you strip away the noise and focus on what matters, because once you've walked through fire, you stop being afraid of smoke. Fear has shaped you, but it never defined you. You've stood on stages with your knees shaking. You've walked into rooms where you felt like an outsider. You've tried again after falling flat on your face. You've asked for help when it humbled you. You've kept moving even when you were unsure, and through it all, you discovered something wild and unexpected. Fear isn't a wall, it's a door. And every time you pushed through it, you didn't shrink, you expanded. Now, you don't just face fear, you welcome it. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's real. Because it means you're playing big, you're stretching, you're becoming. You'd rather risk the discomfort of fear than the regret of playing small. You know the cost of staying in the comfort zone. It's your growth, your potential, your life unlived. And that's a price you're no longer willing to pay. You've turned fear into fuel, into fire, into a force that drives you forward instead of holding you back. And every time you do it, you prove to yourself that you are not powerless, you are not fragile, you are not stuck. You are capable of doing hard things, even scared, so the next time fear whispers, you can't, you smile, you breathe, and you say, watch me.